You have received an invitation to interview for the legal job of your dreams. What do you do to make sure you don't sabotage it? My name is Nikki Khoisamir. I am the founder and CEO of PracticePro, and I work with hundreds of law students to help them prepare for their on-campus interviews, callbacks, and other interview opportunities. And in today's video, I want to talk all about interview don'ts. These are the mistakes that I have historically seen law students make, and some of them are just a function of the new virtual world. So let's get to it. The first mistake is they are too generic and untargeted in their interview. This can come up when you're asked what office you're interested in. If you're equally interested in a couple of offices, but one is really small, if you have excellent grades and everything else is amazing, maybe you're competitive. But if you've done your research, it would be better to pick an office that is larger, has the type of practice areas that you are actually not interested in, but also your resume supports. It will enhance your chances of getting that position. Similarly, if you're asked what practice area are you interested in, even though that law firm or that employer might have the practice area you're interested in, it's possible that in that office, they don't have that much of that work. The way you can find out what they do in that office is through their website and narrowing down your search of the people to that specific office and going through the bios to see what they really do there. There are also really useful resources like NALP, NALP directory. And I'm going to link below an article I wrote on how to research law firms. And finally, I'm going to use what one of my wonderful law students mentioned as generic garbage, is that when you are asked, why do you want to work for us? Why specifically this firm? Maybe they've selected you based on the strength of your resume, but they want to see you have a good reason, that you've done your research about the firm. Maybe you've talked to a couple of people. And similarly, you don't want to ask generic questions because it's likely that everybody's asking that. So be a little bit creative, target your questions. And I'll talk about this in another point. The second mistake that people make, and this is a big one in their interviews, is they show no enthusiasm. They have a flat, monotonous dialogue this entire interview. You want to remember that besides showing that you're competent and you can do the work, you want to make a connection with this person. You don't want them to feel like this was like a waste of 20 or 30 minutes talking to you. So make sure, if you're saying you were really excited to get X experience this summer, your demeanor actually shows that you are really enthusiastic about that practice area. And if you're especially giving long-winded answers and stories, make sure you change, you change up your voice, show that you are excited about being a lawyer, show that you're excited about being at that particular employer. Number 3, they get tripped up by unexpected questions. So a lot of law students practice. They do mock interviews with their career development offices. They do mock interviews with alumni. They might hire a career coach. So they're really ready for certain questions. But the reason they get really tripped up about behavioral questions, it's not necessarily that behavioral questions are difficult. You guys have good judgment. You have made it this far, but because they don't expect that question, they get really nervous and they start just coming apart. You need to remember that you have basically a basic job to show that you're competent to do this work, that you want to do it, you show your enthusiasm, and you're like a normal, nice person. So if you've never been in that situation that they ask you about, just say, I've never come across this, but this is how I would approach it. What do you think? And don't get tripped up. It could just be a little test of how you handle unexpected situation, which can come up a lot in your career as a lawyer. Number 4, too scripted. This is actually a new phenomenon since all the interviews are happening on Zoom or on virtual platforms. And I've seen this in two ways. One, the person has become so prepared and they are really now trying to, as they're talking, they're really trying to remember what they wrote in their script. So you can see their eye going up there, trying to recall what they did. And it comes across as really unnatural. There are also people who I've noticed increasingly, they have either their script open, like they have thought about why did you decide to go to law school or what did you do this summer? And they've already outlined it like they do for their exams, or they might have their resume open. So as they're answering, their eye keeps going down to this document and they might do it really quickly. But especially if you're not, you're not having an enthusiastic affect in your delivery, this can come across as very inauthentic and scripted. This is a conversation. It is way better if you forget one or two things that you were going to say, but you create a connection with this person than if you say everything perfectly. If you watch my video on interview fundamentals, you will remember that is not what we say, but it is the feeling that we generate, and it's how we make our interviewer feel that really matters. Next is they are not dressed professionally. Even though it's virtually, you still need to wear a suit. It is better. Nobody's going to hold it against you if you're a little overdressed, and you can always take off your suit jacket, but you want to be on the, on the polished side of things. You should also make sure your background is as professional as possible. No sitting in the bed. I also have a video that you can check out on how to set up your video from framing to lighting to backgrounds. Next is they ask questions without impact. It's related to what we already talked about, that like generic questions that everybody asks, but this is a little bit more detailed, meaning that I can ask a specific question, but if I don't target it to the person that is sitting across the table from me or across Zoom from me, then it's not going to have a lot of impact. If I ask, a partner who is 20 years out about like the, some specifics of the summer program, maybe like they'd have the answer, but they might appreciate something that is, that they can only provide. Maybe you can ask them about their specific practice area and, the how it's influenced by, the market forces. And when you're talking to an associate, you can ask them questions that make them feel good. So it's the part of this prompt is different people will feel good talking about different things. And the second part of it is if I know that I want to, show you that I'm smart in this interview and I want the job, and the whole interview we've been talking about that stuff, maybe when it's time for my questions, I want to ask something more personal. I want to ask your advice on something or your input about something and create more of a connection. Quite to the contrary, if this whole interview has been chit-chatting about basketball or tennis, when we get, and I never got a chance to tell you why I'm really interested in your particular firm, maybe when we get to the actual question, I want to ask a question that is more impactful, through which I can kind of showcase a little bit in the way I ask the question, or maybe in the way I comment after you answer my question. I can get across some of the things that I wasn't able to. Related to that is this mistake that they are not, a lot of times law students are just very reactive, to the interviewer, meaning if the, interviewer just wants to chat about the weather, they just follow that lead instead of being proactive and advocating for themselves. This does not mean overdoing it. You should follow the lead of the interviewer, answer the questions they have, but whether directly or indirectly, I can talk about the vacation I took and talk about the weather and the food, or I can comment on things that shows I'm an insightful person, I'm an intelligent person. So you want to be proactive in the sense that, these are the strengths about you that maybe you want to somehow, in direct response to a question or indirectly kind of get out, and if you didn't get an opportunity, do it through questions. And also, what things that might be playing against you. So, if I know that my grades are not the best, I might, when I get the opportunity to give details and examples and show that my intellectual rigor on something, I will not miss that opportunity because I'm just being reactive and answering questions like, as if I was being interrogated, or if I was in a deposition and my attorney had just said, only answer the question exactly that you're being asked. Number 8 is the opposite of that. So last mistake was they don't advocate. They're just, they're just completely reactive to that interview. And instead of, trying to look for opportunities to get out the great things about themselves. This is the opposite of that, because another mistake is now you're overselling, you're advocating too hard, and you're just coming across as too desperate. Meaning, if I ask you, how are you enjoying your interview today? Or tell me a little bit about you. And it's just our first question. They're just gone for it. They're like, this is about me and this is what I want to do. And this is what I want to come to your firm. It's kind of like asking for marriage on the first date. So what you want to do is you have 20 minutes, you have 30 minutes, ease into it and don't come all like, just gunning for it, because it might come across as you're just it's just like a little salesman, like like. Number 9, they give too long of answers. Whether you're in person or especially if you're on Zoom, where we have visual cues, but we don't have that human connection. I can't see you come in, sit down, shake my hand. If you give really long answers, you can't read like well, is the interviewer trying to move to the next topic? So use the power of the pause, which means, give your answer, but look at the person, see, are they nodding? Are they smiling? Do they seem to be wandering around their eyes? And you want to keep your answers shorter. If you're going to give a long answer because the question asks for a long answer and you have a really good story to tell, maybe give like a nice little intro, like a good lawyer, and just say like, this was your conclusion, or this was, like answer the question in one sentence, like a topic sentence, right? And then go into the story. If you're going to tell me about a matter you worked on, before telling me what you did, maybe give me a sentence about what the issue was. Like, use your good lawyering skills that you learned in law school in how you're going to organize your answer. And last, they're not themselves in the interview. They're trying to be something they're not. And I have seen a lot of this more from the standpoint of someone who is really fun and exciting and, just an easy to talk to person. But somewhere along the line, somebody gave them the advice that, oh, they're inexperienced, they look young, and, they are now going to these interviews and they're trying to be serious and like have this demeanor and the opposite of who they are. And that also that they can't connect that way. I had a client like this who came to me after, OCI had ended, after she had not gotten the offer at a few callbacks and she had one left. And I wondered, what is it about her? She's so nice. She's smart. What is it that it's like law students always pull at my heartstrings, but I wasn't really able to feel it on this one. And I asked her and she said she's trying to be really serious because she's worried that she won't be professional. But she was so far from that border. And she decided, what did she have to lose? So she showed up to the next interview as herself. If you are an excited person and just own your personality, be the professional version of your own personality and connect with that person. Because if you're trying to be really reserved, If you're trying to like censor yourself, that's the right word. If you're trying to censor yourself, sometimes you're going to miss out on that connection because you're just so focused on reining it in, right? At the end of the day, guys, this is a conversation. You can't control the outcome. It's like you don't know 100% what they're looking for. You don't know who your competition is. You might think you're not going to get this, but you will. Or you might think you're showing and you don't. I've seen both sides of it. The best thing you can do is prepare, read up on your interviewer, read up on the firm, talk to a few people, show up and have a good time. The worst case scenario is what? You make a good contact, and down the line, even if you don't get the job now, you would be able to maybe get it later and add this person to your amazing network. So just show up out there, have fun with it, talk about your amazing backgrounds. Good luck to you, and I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed this, I would really appreciate your support. Please subscribe to our channel. Please also comment below and let me know if you have any questions about interviewing or anything else. And then finally, go ahead and hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Good luck and stay well.